I'd like to ask for your indulgence tonight because I'd like to recite a poem that I read to you before called Time and Passage. And I wrote this poem after driving in Ontario, nothing particularly poetic about that, but I was driving in the area around Lindsay and just got caught up and stopped and wrote the poem. And I'd like to recite the poem this evening from my mother Barbara, who passed away 2 weeks ago. And she grew up outside Lindsay. So I will always think of her. And if you'd had the pleasure of knowing her, you would have loved her as I do, because Mom loved to drink, loved to socialize. She was a teacher, a journalist, read voraciously, loved to argue, loved philosophy. And frankly, I think she knew everything about English grammar, and I'm not frigging kidding you. She could tell you exactly what the rule was and explain it. And it was wonderful at her funeral because she had requested what the minister referred to as the ancient text. And the minister was a man who was older than I am, and my mother was 85, and she grew up obviously out in the countryside. And so I wasn't certain whether he meant the St. James Bible. Like, what did he mean? He didn't say. But as poets, it was wonderful to hear the language that my mother wished to speak about her recited in the church, and it was so rich and lovely. My mother's name was Barbara, and this poem's entitled Time and Passage. I touch in my heart memories of nothing, embracing in the vanishing moments of our lives the emptiness of its substance, lost in time yet found in our souls' meandering ways, like the sighs of past lovers that seem to echo in the spring winds as they moan low, hugging the undulating fields, blowing in their restive, timeless way on and on and on. Gone to where, for what, or to whom do the winds blow? Caught in their own longing to belong, or like the runoff that flows in the spring, having tripped the lock of ice's embrace and its cruel hold o'er water's blithe spirit, cleansing the land of the winter's refuse in the erosion of form, also the cut of new beginnings, and the burgeoning of gravity's ultimate precision through the banks of resistance and the mud of the moment. Life flows like this, or we flow like this through life, in our own rivulet of time and passage. Bags packed or unpacked haphazardly, ticket stamped, lost or not purchased, grasping for place, passionately, dispassionately, and everywhere in between, caught in the moment or freed. Thank you. One other, or do we have time? Sure, yeah. Okay. I'm sorry that our friend Paul isn't here. Paul is a fellow who comes to Tree frequently, and you know, we're our little community here. And if you had the pleasure of knowing Paul, he quite often speaks of his widowed wife, and I understand she passed away recently. And my wife and I separated 5 years ago, and I've been really struck by hearing Paul speak of the love he has for his wife. And I wrote a poem for Paul, and I spoke with him here recently and asked him whether I could have the pleasure of reading it here. And he gave me that permission, which I was grateful for. And I hadn't a title for the poem, so I asked Paul what his wife's name was, and he said his wife's name was Sarah Lee. So I've entitled the poem In the Lee of Sarah. May each word as lost caresses slip into your lonely heart. May you take solace in the feelings of their residence. For in all the moments of the missing, there is all of her beauty. In your architecture, everything of your facade is her in profile, of the love you and she built palatially, as the home for your hearts timeless entwine, always within, even especially the without. Thank you.